So I felt like there must be at least another 30, 40 hours that I could work on my startup.
Could you show me this in context of
Right.
this?
So if we look at our whole week, for example, these beautifully arranged Legos, if I take one of these blocks of Legos, so each one of those blocks in there is 2 hours. So 8 hours a day. We are sleeping 8 hours a day, right? And we're doing that 7 days a week, right? So basically, we've got 7 days a week, 8 hours a day, we're sleeping. The blue Legos are showing our 40 hours a week, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, we're working, right? Then we get to other, preparing dinner and showering, shaving, getting ready, whatever else. So that's about 4 hours a day on the weekdays, which is including commute time, and about 8 hours a day on the weekend. Then we get to free time, social media and watching Netflix and hanging out with friends, going for dinner. And we've got quite a bit. We've got about 4 hours a day of doing that and about 8 hours a day on the weekends. So this is kind of what a typical week for most people would look like, right? Now, when you're starting a business, the important thing is don't shut off the cash flow. Some other yo-yo is paying your rent and some other yo-yo is paying your groceries. So we don't want to rock the boat. But we're going to make one change to Blue.
Which is the amount of hours I'm working for my 9 to 5.
Now, before I started my startup, I used to get top reviews as an employee. I was very focused on doing a great job for my employer, all in, right? The day I decided I'm going to do my startup, I decided I need to be just above firing level. My performance needs to be just good enough so they don't can me, but nothing beyond that, because I need all my energy to go into my startup. So that's the only tweak I'm making is the Blue stays, but we're not doing extra blues like we were doing before, right?
And now, Blue, for anybody that can't see, because you're listening on audio, is work.
Exactly. Yeah. Blue is work. Exactly. Now, when we embark on a startup, we should never do a startup to make money. The worst reason to start a company. The purpose of business is not to make money. The purpose of business is to deliver an incredible product or service to humanity. If you do that, the money is a side effect. It'll happen. We don't need to focus on it. So what we are looking for is, do we have a product or a service that we are thinking about that we could bring into this world that is going to improve the world in some way?
How do I know if it's a good idea?
Whatever idea you have come up with is not going to work, okay? Because you came up with it in an ivory tower between your ears, okay? And that's not really a great place to find great ideas. What's going to happen is we're going to be doing what I call rapid prototyping, which is we take this idea and show humans what it is. And when you show it to humans, you will get feedback. So maybe I'll just give it in more practical terms. When I was starting my first business, it was going to be a IT services business, okay, information technology services, and I was going to be providing these services to very large businesses, companies that are $1 billion or more in earnings or cash flows. I was in a meeting with a senior IT guy at a very large bank in Chicago. And I was going through my PowerPoint deck with them. I came to the 10th slide, said my spiel, went to slide 11. So the boss who was sitting in the meeting said, go back to slide 10. So I went back to slide 10, again, gave my speech that I had for slide 10 and took it to 11. He said, go back to slide 10 and do not change the slide. I don't have an interest in any other slide. Okay, so I took it back to slide 10. And all he wanted to talk about was what was on slide 10. My deck was talking about 7 things we could do. Slide 10 was one of those 7. It was an extreme pain point for him. He needed help on that one thing. He didn't need help on all the other riffraff stuff I was talking about. So when you're doing a startup, you have to be listening very carefully. Your customers or potential customers will tell you exactly what you need to do. Whatever you came up with, maybe 80% right or 70% right or 40% right. But your customer will tell you what is 100% right. Okay, because that's a real pain point. So I went back and thought about it. And I realized that his pain point, and I could see it was a severe pain point because he gave me a purchase order at the end of that meeting, was going to be a pain point for a lot of people. So I went back, I took slide 10, blew it up into 20 slides, and that became the deck. Okay, everything else got thrown out. Right now, I couldn't have done that without him. My brain is too small to have figured that out. So anytime you're doing a startup of any kind and you have a prototype or an early product or something going on, your users are going to tell you exactly what tweak they want.
You've just reminded me of a conversation I had this morning.
Okay.
Where I interviewed someone, because much of what you're saying is orientated towards startups, but it's actually every single day of everyone's life, because I interviewed someone this morning for a really critical role in the company. And this person has spent 20 years at one of the biggest companies in the world. And when I was doing the interview, she was telling me about lots of things she's done in those 20 years. And I was just trying to get to this one thing. Can you put on events? And she was telling me about this and that and the other thing and this and this and the other thing. And I was just I'd only come to this interview to figure out if she could put on big scale events. So we spent, of an hour conversation, we spent 55 minutes talking about a bunch of things I wasn't interested in. And actually, as you were speaking, I was going, do you know what she could have done at the start of that conversation? She could have gone, Stephen, can I ask you one question? What are you looking for from this person? And then I would have gone, I just want someone that can put on events. And then the next 55 minutes could have been persuading me that she can do that.
Sure.
And it just applies to what you just said there. How could you, as the salesperson that day in that meeting, with what you know now, how could you have done a better job without going through all of those slides?
Well, I think what I would do now if I were doing something like that is that my radar on listening would be 10x. You know, we don't learn when we speak. We learn when we listen. So I would really be trying to talk less and extract more. And I wouldn't even rely so much on slides. I'd like to really try to bring them into what they are trying to say. And so basically, if you study businesses, you know, venture backed, non-venture backed, whatever, this is a very common thing. There are almost no businesses who end up with the business model that was originally conceived. I mean, that just would be such an anomaly. It's really the interplay between the founding team and the early customers, which really leads to taking this wet clay and making it into something that people want.